Hey, good morning, everybody. Doing a quick little video here on the All-Star race, kind of what I thought about it. So let's just kick it off. Okay, All-Star race got moved to Bristol. Everybody knows that. They came out with the neon lights, and I guess I should have made this video a little earlier, but I kind of wanted to see how the lights looked on the track before I just went totally crazy. My gut feeling was, hey, like some of the people, the fans were saying, who made great points. They said, oh, it's a concrete surface. Bristol's already lit up very well. You're not going to be able to see the lights very well, this and that. They were right. In my opinion, you couldn't see the lights well at all. They were only on the back of the car, which, I don't know, it almost looked like they were like dragging something out their tails or whatever. It was kind of weird. Got to watch the curse language on YouTube. I read the first minute or two they get upset if you use profanity, so can block your videos. But anyways, so the issues I have with the lights, and I'll get to the racing product next. But the issues I have with the lights is, I get it. It was something that NASCAR wanted to do to draw in what they say younger fans, new fans, because obviously they're not helping the older fans that buy tickets and spend all the money on merchandise and pay for cable and watch the races and everything else. They don't care about us. They just think we're going to still be there. They're worried about new fans, right? That's what Dale Jr. said in his podcast, so I think that's somewhat credible. Well, they got these neon lights, and not only, in my opinion, was it just a silly, stupid idea, it didn't really affect the racing product, but it was just silly. Not only that, they could only have 3 colors. Ford's were blue, Chevy's was red, Toyota's was orange, which, by the way, to me, the red and the orange really didn't look that much different with those lights. There were times where they were running side by side and I could barely tell the colors apart. It looked like some teams' lights were brighter than other teams. I don't know. So they didn't let them have their own colors. They just, well, I'm assuming they didn't let the teams have their own colors. That's what it appears to be, which also made no sense to me. I think the teams, for the most part, probably didn't even care. They were probably like, hey, let's just get it over with. And then they pushed the numbers back. We'll touch on that too, but sticking with the light thing and kind of the number thing, I guess, will kind of go in this whole next little thing I'm about to say. I watched Dale Jr.'s podcast and I listened to him, and his other counterpart sits behind a little glass desk or whatever, was saying, oh, hey, he didn't like the lights. He just thought it was gimmicky, kind of stupid. He just, you could kind of tell he's kind of that old school fan still. And Dale Jr. kind of tried to defend him. He's like, oh, well, if he sees that movie on cars and this and that, then, they should have neon lights. And the guy said, well, maybe the car should have eyeballs on them too. And Dale Jr. kind of, didn't, he didn't seem to have the greatest look on his face, like, don't you challenge me, boy, I own this show type of thing, which was kind of funny to me. But what I'm frustrated about is and I'm using Dale Jr. because obviously he's someone's in the industry. He's pretty up there in the popularity still. His voice and his opinions get talked about a lot and get weighed a lot, so it's a comparison I'm making. Because obviously he feels that way. A lot of other people feel that way that are inside the sport. He's a team owner. So he says that, but the thing that I get confused about is he says, well, you got to think about the younger generations, and he's like talking like, well, your 5 or 6-year-old like that. And when they get older, that could leave a lasting impression of neon lights and NASCAR, and they could think that's cool and this and that. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, well, that kid isn't buying tickets yet. That kid isn't paying to go to a race. That kid does not have a car to pay for that he paid for, and he paid for the gas to drive down to a track to go camping and pay for the camping ticket. He doesn't have cable that he pays for to watch the race, to get viewing, to get uh, ratings and viewership on the TV. So I get it. It's like, think of the children, think of the children. Well, when it comes to education and stuff, that's fine. Think of them all you want. But when it comes to a NASCAR fan, when I was a kid, and now if maybe Dale Jr. should say this is a societal problem, but when I was a kid, um, I liked racing because the cars are loud, the cars are fast, the cars look cool as hell. I liked seeing the smoke, tire squeal, and all whatever. That was good enough for me. I didn't need to say, man, all that's okay, but I really wish they had some neon lights on the cars. That would be just awesome. Like if you're trying to use neon lights to attract a fan, that's not going to be enough to keep that fan liking NASCAR forever. That's just not enough. That fan, for the most part, you either like motorsports or you don't. I can't sit my girlfriend down there who doesn't have much care in NASCAR at all and be like, hey, look, babe, they got green lights and they got this and the numbers moving. Now do you think you should watch NASCAR more? No. And I say this because it is a serious thing. NASCAR really thinks that they're going to attract more fans by doing these such things. Not happening, folks. Not happening. I don't even really commend NASCAR for trying, because who's to say that these teams didn't have to spend money buying these neon lights? That's just one more expenditure that they shouldn't have to pay for, right? So, talk about cutting down costs and everything. Here we go again. I think the teams would have rather spent more money on maybe trying a different rules package or something for this race and like an experiment, as opposed to putting neon lights underneath the car, because of that, at least that way they're, maybe making a racing product better, which, hey, maybe makes more people watch the TV, which, hey, maybe creates better overall action, which, hey, maybe brings in sponsors and stuff like that are watching the race. I don't know. I don't think a sponsor is going to see, man, neon lights, boy, we really need to jump on that bandwagon. The racing sucked, but neon lights are badass. No, they don't care. So, anyways, that's my thing with that. Moving numbers to the back. I wanted to wait and see how it looked. I saw it. These cars and their raw design, and NASCAR, I think, kind of having certain rules on how high and tall and everything the numbers can and can't be, hurts that concept. I don't think that concept is necessarily horrible on like a super late model or something like that, or like a older late model from like the 90s. But there's something about the way the fenders flare in the back and all that on a lot of numbers you saw, they almost kind of like got wrinkled, and it looks okay on some cars, and in some cars it just looked horrible. The sponsorship was too long and the numbers were too small or too high, and there were a very few amount of cars. I think I probably counted maybe 8 or 9, maybe 10 that really looked like, oh wow, that looks pretty decent. I could actually see that every weekend. Most of them didn't, and those were a lot of the ones that just did it right. I liked what Kyle Busch did actually with just the M&Ms and no. I thought that was pretty genius. I liked what Front Row Motorsports did with Loves, but again, Loves is a short name, just made sense. They didn't clutter it up. You had some people that was like, I can't remember, like the Discount Tire one was kind of too long with Brad Keselowski. You had some other ones where it was like the Monster Energy was like Monster, and then they had to put the little M. It's just too much. It was like, just keep like Energizer. Ryan Priest, that was not too bad. Energizer, kind of a long word, but it just, it was just one motion. It wasn't. I felt like a lot of them were too busy too, because then they moved the rear quarter panel, and the rear quarter panel had all this crap all over it. I was like, well, that doesn't look right either. Like, so, and then some teams were just kind of like leave the rear quarter panel blank, which I actually thought looked kind of better, because again, it didn't look so busy. So that's something that I just think with the sponsors we have today and everything else, It's just not going to work. Again, I thought that was kind of a gimmicky thing NASCAR is trying to do again. I'm not going to bash him over the head too hard because of that, because it's not as silly as the light thing. Um, the race itself, I've been saying this. They got. I know it's expensive. I know it's gonna cost money. They gotta go to the track owners. You can't keep putting down a traction compound and it just being a miracle thing. You can't do it. I mean, it was an okay race, but I felt like the Bristol a month and a half ago was a lot better racing than this race was. Correct me if I'm wrong. I just think the traction compound it just didn't seem to work right. Like, I mean, you could kind of pass, but I don't know. It just reminded me of the Bristol we've been seeing. Just that hard to kind of pass. I just didn't like it. I think they need to regroup the track. They need to figure out something with the track. I know it would cost buku's amount of money, but at the end of the day, I mean, I feel like you're just slapping a band-aid on. Like, I don't understand. We never had to use traction compound in the past, and there was good racing. Now, when I say the past, I mean, you know, 8, 9, 10 years ago, like way before all this. I don't want to say the past like recently. People are like, oh no, what the hell are you talking about? No, I mean like '90s and early 2000s. They never had to use traction compound then, so you know it's the same way of, hey, let's make smaller races. Well, the longer races were never an issue back then, minus maybe tracks like Pocono and stuff like that. There were a couple tracks where the long races had always been an issue, but getting a little off topic. But yeah, with the traction compound, I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think that it's something that is not getting used or applied right. The product itself is not quite right, and it's masking a real issue, which is the cars. It's trying to mask that. I get it. I understand it. We all know the car sucks. It's been said it's going to cost too much money to fix things, but there's options that you can do that aren't being done with the car. And at the end of the day, I mean, you can't keep using that excuse. We're fans. Your average fan's not going to know all these fine details about old teams can't afford to get the new cars and stuff and different cars and change the rules package. At the end of the day, we're fans that want to see a show. That just is what it is. We want to see a show. Maybe, um, instead of NASCAR paying a driver $1 million to win a race, maybe they say, hey, we're going to spend this $500,000 to research how to make this car better for Bristol or whatever, and you're not going to get your 500. You're not going to get your $1 million anymore. I don't know. There needs to be some compromises, some things figured out. We can't just keep saying, well, oh, it's too expensive for everybody to do. I mean, at the end of the day, if we keep saying that for 10 more years, racing's going to suck. The new car is going to come out. What if the new car has the same issue? You know what I'm saying? We're assuming it's not. What if it does? So I mean, at the end of the day, it's like Mark Martin said, it's a show, and we need to see a good show. And if that means you need to change shit with the cars, then it's got to happen. I mean, at some point, it's got to happen. You can't just keep, kind of pushing the fans to the side and saying, oh, it's too expensive and this and that. They don't know that. Most fans don't know that. Most fans, like my dad, who does watch NASCAR on a often basis, he doesn't know that. He watches NASCAR weekend, but he doesn't know all the fine nitty-gritty details. He thinks teams just do what they tell them to do, and hey, they build a car and they show up. So, something needs to change. They need to go to the owners, get tracks changed. There's more things I think they need to do they're not going to do, which is knock down a safer barrier, push the track out another couple of feet, then put the safer barrier in so you'd have the original racing surface. I think that needs to be done, because that to me ruined Bristol more than anything. But anyways, I thought the race was all right. It didn't do a whole lot for me. It's an all-star race. I think it's kind of lost its luster a long time ago. They keep trying to kind of beef it up. I get it. They're trying, but I don't think moving it to a different track really made it that much more exciting or different. I think it just was in a different area. But kind of cool seeing Daryl Waltrip. Not always the biggest fan, but that was kind of neat. He had some umps to him, and at least they were getting kind of loose and stuff. So that was kind of nice. But um, anyways, I'll see you guys later on. We'll recap and talk about the Texas race coming up. I'm sure that'll be a horrible, dismal race as usual, but I'm sure they'll put PJ1 across the whole track this time. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll holler at you later.